What if a man who has lost absolutely everything is given a chance to reclaim his empire in one single day? The dawn over Malibu painted the ocean a blood-red hue. The first rays of sunlight filtered through the floor-to-ceiling bedroom windows, causing Kim Kardashian to wince and crack her eyes open. Silk sheets caressed her skin, and the air was filled with the faint scent of freshly cut lilies that her personal florist had delivered the day before. She stretched and glanced at her watch. 5:47 in the morning. "It's too early even for me," Kim muttered, falling back onto the pillows, but something kept her from falling asleep again. A strange sense of unease, like a premonition of trouble, settled somewhere in the pit of her stomach. She reached for her nightstand, feeling for her phone. A familiar ritual, checking notifications before getting out of bed. Millions of people around the world were waiting for her new Instagram post, her new photo, her new statement. The screen lit up and Kim frowned. 47 missed calls, 112 messages. It was too much even for her. What the heck? She sat up in bed, sleep gone. The first message was from her top lawyer. "Kim, we need to talk urgently. Call me back as soon as you see this." The second is from the PR director. "The situation is critical. All channels are sounding the alarm. Call back immediately." Kim felt her heart begin to pound in her chest. She quickly dialed the lawyer's number, biting her lip nervously. "Mark? What's going on?" "Kim, thank God you finally answered." Mark Lewinsky's voice, usually unflappable, was cracking. "We've had a disaster. There's been a massive cyber attack on all of your accounts and the company's servers." "What do you mean, cyber attack?" Kim had already jumped out of bed and was heading quickly to the dressing room. Her intuition told her that this day would require a perfect look. Armor was needed more than ever. "They took control of all your social networks. They posted personal correspondence, photos from cloud storage, the very ones we agreed never to publish." Kim stopped, feeling the ground slipping out from under her feet. "No, it's impossible. I have the best security system, two-factor authentication, separate servers. This is professional work, Kim. They knew where to hit. What's more," Mark paused heavily, "they got access to financial transactions. Accounts are frozen, Skims and KKW beauty shares are falling in pre-trade trading. Partners are already calling to suspend contracts." Kim felt nausea rising in her throat. "How much?" was all she could ask. "Preliminary estimates are about $300 million in losses, and this number is growing every minute." She slowly sank down onto the poof in the middle of the dressing room. Around her hung hundreds of designer outfits, stood rows of shoes from the world's best brands. Yesterday it was a fortress of success. Today it is the scenery for a tragedy. "I'll be there in an hour." Mark's voice brought her back to reality. "We're putting together a crisis team. Hang in there, Kim. We'll get through this." The connection was cut off, and Kim sat there staring into space, too. The phone in her hand continued to vibrate with an endless stream of messages. As if in slow motion, she opened Twitter. Her name was trending worldwide, but for the first time in her career, it was not the fame she was looking for. With trembling fingers, Kim dialed her mother's number. "Mom?" Her voice sounded unusually thin. "Oh, honey, have you seen the news yet?" Kris Jenner, as always, was the first to know. "I've already contacted NBC, CNN, and Fox News. They're ready to give you primetime coverage as soon as we get our statement ready. I've been calling our lawyers in New York." "Mom, stop," Kim interrupted. "I have no idea what's going on. I just woke up." For the first time in many years, she heard her mother, the Iron Lady of show business, take a convulsive breath. "Turn on the TV, baby. Any channel." Kim walked out of the dressing room on autopilot into the main living room and pressed a button on the remote. The huge screen on the wall came to life, showing the face of one of the morning show hosts. An unprecedented cyber attack on the Kardashian empire. According to preliminary data, hackers gained access to the celebrities' personal accounts and withdrew significant amounts. Bank representatives refused to comment on the situation, citing confidentiality. Meanwhile, shares of companies associated with Kim Kardashian are rapidly falling. Analysts are already calling this Black Thursday for the Kardashian empire. Kim watched in silence as her photos flashed across the screen, interspersed with charts of falling stocks. It was like some kind of surreal nightmare. "I'll call you back, Mom," she said quietly and hung up. At that moment, the house phone rang. Kim automatically picked it up. "Hello? Mrs. Kardashian? This is Robert Higgins from Valiant Fashion. I'm calling about our contract." Kim's heart sank. Valiant Fashion was her biggest clothing partner, a contract that was worth millions. "Yes, Mr. Higgins, I understand that this is a difficult situation, but I'm afraid that in light of recent events, we must suspend our cooperation." His voice was cold and distant. Clause 17.4 of our contract allows us to do so in the event of reputational risks. My lawyers have already sent an official notice to your team. Mr. Higgins, you can't just... Goodbye, Mrs. Kardashian. I hope you can resolve these troubles. There were short beeps on the line. Kim stood there, clutching the phone, tears welling up, but she couldn't afford to cry. Not now. She took a deep breath and headed for the bathroom. The cold water brought her back to her senses. Kim looked at her reflection in the mirror. Pull yourself together, she told herself firmly. This isn't the first scandal in your life. You coped then, and you can cope now. The sound of an incoming text made her jump. It was Kendall. Sis, I just found out. I'm with you. What should I do? This simple encouragement gave Kim strength. She quickly responded, Thanks, honey. I'm putting together a crisis team. I'll be in touch. Over the next 30 minutes, Kim took a cold shower, dried her hair, applied flawless makeup, and chose a sharp black pantsuit from Balenciaga, armor for the battle that lay ahead. As she walked down the stairs, she heard the sound of breaking glass and froze. Who's there? Kim shouted, feeling her heart about to jump out of her chest. Mrs. Kardashian, it's me, Ramon. She breathed a sigh of relief. Ramon had been her chef for several years now. Sorry about the noise. He appeared in the hall, wiping his hands on his apron. I broke a plate when I saw the news. Is it true? Is it that bad? Kim saw genuine concern in his eyes and felt warmth for the first time that morning. Everything will be fine, Ramon. I'll figure it out. I'll make you breakfast, he nodded. You can't go hungry on a day like this. He nuts. Thank you, but I don't have time. Mark will be here any minute. Then at least some coffee, Ramon insisted. I'll bring it to the office. Kim nodded gratefully and headed to her home office. There, she turned on her computer and opened her email. What she saw made her clench her fists. Hundreds of emails from partners, all with the same subject line, suspension or termination of contracts. In 15 minutes, she lost advertising contracts worth more than $50 million. A video call notification popped up on the computer screen. It was Chloe. Kim, oh my God, I just saw that. The sister's face on the screen expressed genuine horror. Are you okay? As much as possible in this situation. Kim tried to keep her voice even. Have you seen what's happening with the stocks? Yes, I have already contacted our broker. He recommends not to do anything until the market opens. He says that this could be a short-term panic. Short-term? Kim smiled bitterly. Chloe, they leaked my personal photos. Those very ones. Oh my God, Chloe covered her mouth with her hand. When you say those... Exactly. Photos that I never intended to show to the world. I can't even imagine how they could have been obtained. But you have the best protection. How could this even happen? I don't know, Kim shook her head. It looks like a coordinated attack. Someone really wants to destroy me. There was a knock on the door and Ashley's assistant entered the office with a tray. Ramon asked me to pass the coffee. She put the cup on the table. Thanks, Ashley. What's it like outside? The assistant bit her lip. There are already about 20 vans with reporters at the gate. Security had to call for reinforcements. They were trying to climb over the fence. Great, Kim rubbed her temples tiredly. So the zoo is open now. Ashley, no comments to the press. You know the protocol. Of course. The assistant nodded and left. Kim, I'm coming, Chloe said firmly from the screen. You shouldn't be alone right now. No? Kim shook her head. Coming to me now would attract even more attention. You'd better sort out our joint projects. Check if this has affected Good American. Chloe nodded. Stay in touch. I love you, sister. And I you. The connection was lost and Kim leaned back in her chair, staring at the ceiling. Her life, her business, everything she had spent years building was now crumbling before her eyes, and she couldn't see a way out. The phone vibrated again. The name Fiona Grant appeared on the screen, editor-in-chief of Vogue. Fiona, Kim tried to keep her voice calm and professional. Kim, dear, Fiona's voice was unnaturally sweet. I'm calling to see how you're holding up in light of recent events. I'm coping, Kim said shortly, sensing a catch. Fiona never called just to chat. It's just awful what's happening to you, the editor continued. The whole office is talking about it. I was thinking, maybe we could do an exclusive interview? Your side of the story, a candid conversation about what happened. We could sell it as a story of survival, of rebirth. Kim gritted her teeth. Of course, sensation. Exclusive. Fiona, I appreciate the offer, but I need to sort out the situation first. Of course, my dear, I understand. The editor's voice was tinged with poorly concealed disappointment. Just think about it. Stories like these can either destroy or elevate. It all depends on how they're presented. I'll take that into account, Kim answered dryly and hung up. Suddenly, the office door swung open and Mark Lewinsky appeared. His gray hair was tousled, his tie askew, and he had a leather folder of documents tucked under his arm. Kim had never seen her lawyer in such a state. "The situation is worse than we thought," he began without preamble, throwing the folder on the table. "This is not just a hacker attack. This is a planned operation to destroy your business." "What do you mean?" "Look." Mark opened the folder and laid out the printouts. "The attack on your accounts is just the tip of the iceberg. At the same time, a massive sell-off of your company's shares began on the market. Someone knew what would happen and prepared in advance." "Wait," Kim leaned forward. "Are you saying someone intentionally crashed my stock?" "Exactly. And that's not all." Mark ran his hand through his hair. "Page 6 and TMZ have already received anonymous materials compromising you. Fake, but very high quality. If they publish this..." "What is it?" Kim's voice trembled. "Honey, fake tax evasion documents. Bogus evidence that your charity is a money laundering scheme. False evidence that Skims uses virtual slave labor in factories in Southeast Asia." Kim felt nausea rising in her throat. "This is absurd. We have the strictest control at all production facilities. I personally checked the working conditions." "I know," Mark raised his hand. "But in the current situation, people are ready to believe anything, especially if it's a sensation." Kim walked to the window and pulled back the curtain. There was quite a crowd outside her gate. Reporters, paparazzi, onlookers with phones ready to capture her fall. "Who needs this, Mark?" she asked quietly. "Who could have organized this?" "You have a lot of competition, Kim. Your empire is worth billions. You've poached advertisers from dozens of other brands. The list of suspects is too long." Kim shook her head. "No, it was someone who knows me personally, someone who had access to my personal data, to my servers, someone from my inner circle." The phone on the table vibrated. The number was hidden. "Don't answer," Mark warned. "Now is not the time to talk to strangers." But something inside Kim told her this call was important. She pressed the accept button. "Hello? Kim Kardashian?" The unfamiliar male voice sounded tense. "Don't say my name and don't put me on speakerphone." "Who is this?" Kim frowned. "The one who knows who is behind the attack on you." Kim glanced quickly at Mark, who was gesturing for her to stop talking. "I'm listening," she said instead. "Not on the phone," the voice was insistent. "I know who's trying to destroy you, and I have proof. Meet me in an hour at the abandoned warehouse at 1740 Industrial Street. Come alone." "Why should I believe you?" Kim narrowed her eyes. "Because you have no choice. If you don't stop this now, by this evening, there will be no trace left of your empire." The connection was interrupted. "Who was that?" Mark asked immediately. Kim slowly put the phone down. "Someone who claims to know who is behind this." "A telephone terrorist," Mark waved it off. "Now hundreds of them will be calling with assurances that they can help for a small reward." "No," Kim shook her head. "There was something in his voice. He knew what he was talking about, and he gave me an address to meet." "Don't even think about it," Mark threw up his hands. "Meet with an unknown person in such a situation? It could be a trap." Kim looked thoughtfully at the phone screen, then turned her gaze to the computer, where the list of lost contracts continued to grow. "What if this is my only chance?" She met Mark's eyes. "What if this man actually knows who's behind this?" "Kim, this is crazy." "No, it's crazy to sit here and watch everything I've spent years building come crashing down." Kim jumped up, her eyes shining with determination. "I'm going to this meeting. You stay here and continue to work with the PR team on damage control. If you insist on this madness, then at least take security with you." Mark realized that he would not be able to convince her otherwise. "He said to come alone." Kim shook her head. "And that's what I'll do." Her phone rang again. This time it was Julian Moore, her business partner and longtime friend, the owner of one of the largest media holdings in the country. "Julian," Kim breathed, feeling relieved. Finally, a friend's voice on this crazy morning. "Kim, darling, I just found out." Julian's voice sounded worried. "This is crazy. How are you?" "I've had better times," Kim chuckled nervously. "My empire is falling apart before my eyes." "I know, poor thing." There was something odd in his tone that Kim couldn't quite place. "Listen, I want to help. I'm having a charity party tonight, and the cream of society is going to be there. You really should come." "Julian, are you serious? I'm in the middle of the scandal of the century, and you're inviting me to a party?" "That's exactly why you need to show up," he insisted. "To show the world that Kim Kardashian isn't broken. Plus, all the big media players will be there. We can start working on rebuilding your image today." Kim paused, considering the offer. It made sense. Hiding would be admitting defeat. Okay, I'll come, she finally said. What time? It starts at 8, but you can come earlier. We'll discuss strategy in private. Julian's voice took on a strange note again, which Kim chose to ignore. Agreed. After finishing the conversation, Kim turned to Mark. I need to get out of the house without attracting media attention. Can you arrange that? Garage, back exit through the garden, tinted SUV with no identifying marks. Mark answered quickly. Standard protocol for an emergency evacuation. Okay, Kim nodded. Get the car ready. I'm going to meet this informant and then to Julian's party. Kim, please think again. There's no time to think, Mark, Kim snapped. There's only time to act. Now get out. I need to change. As the door closed behind the lawyer, Kim walked to the window. The sun was high in the sky, bathing Malibu in bright light. But for her, this was the darkest day of her career. The usually serene ocean looked blood red, as if heralding new challenges. The phone in her hand vibrated. A new message from an unknown number. The clock is ticking, Kim Kardashian. You have 12 hours left to save everything you hold dear. I'm waiting. Kim clutched her phone so tightly her knuckles turned white. Whoever was behind this attack had vastly underestimated her resolve. She had built an empire from nothing, using scandal as a springboard for success. And if anyone thought they could bring her down, they were in for a nasty surprise this day. Kim Kardashian was ready for battle, and she wasn't going to lose. The midday sun beat down relentlessly on the Los Angeles asphalt as the tinted SUV pulled up 2 blocks from an abandoned warehouse on Industrial Street. Kim glanced at herself in the rearview mirror. Her black designer suit fit her perfectly, like armor protecting her from the outside world. Her dark glasses hid her eyes, reddened from lack of sleep. She looked just like she did on the covers of magazines. Perfect. Only inside, everything was turning over with fear and uncertainty. I'll wait here, the driver said, turning around. If you're not back in an hour, I'll call the police. No need for the police, Kim snapped. Just call Mark. The driver nodded and Kim took a deep breath, opened the door, and stepped out onto the hot street. The area was almost deserted. A few abandoned warehouses, graffiti on the walls, broken bottles underfoot. A place where billionaire Kim Kardashian should never have found herself. And yet here she was. Every step she took toward the old building sent a throbbing pain through her temples. Kim checked her phone. 150 new notifications in the last hour. The entire world had watched her fall live, but no one knew she was here, in an industrial area, walking toward a stranger who could save or destroy her. The warehouse door was ajar. Kim stopped and listened. There was no sound from inside. She pushed the door and it creaked open. It was cool and dark inside. Narrow rays of sunlight filtered through dirty windows near the ceiling, creating the illusion of spotlights on a makeshift stage. Dust danced in these rays, turning an ordinary abandoned room into something almost mystical. I've come, Kim said loudly, trying to keep her voice from shaking. Show yourself. A figure emerged from the shadows in the back of the warehouse. A middle-aged man dressed in nondescript clothes, jeans, a gray t-shirt, a worn leather jacket. Nothing special, but something in his eyes said he had seen and known more than most people. Kim Kardashian, he nodded, not stepping into the light. Thank you for coming. I didn't have much of a choice, Kim replied, stepping forward. Who are you? My name is David Rains. The man finally stepped closer to the light. I've been working in security for JM Media Group for the last 5 years. Kim frowned. JM Media Group? That's Julian Moore's company. Exactly, David nodded. Your so-called friend and business partner. Kim felt a chill run down her spine. She took another step forward, now looking into the man's face. What are you trying to say? David pulled out his smartphone, pressed a few buttons, and handed it to Kim. These are the surveillance footage from the JM Media office for the last week. Take a close look. Kim picked up her phone and started scrolling through the video. It showed Julian Moore in his plush office, talking to 2 men in suits. Kim turned up the volume. To have everything ready by Thursday, Julian's voice was cold and calculating. As soon as the attack on Kardashian's servers begins, our people must be ready to buy up shares at the minimum price. We're hitting all directions at once. Social networks, finances, reputation. By evening, there will be no stone left of her empire. Kim felt the ground slipping from under her feet. She grabbed the nearest column to keep from falling. That can't be true, her voice wavered. Julian's been my friend for 10 years. We built a business together, supported each other. He was never your friend. David took the phone back. He used you. He watched, he studied, he waited for the right moment. And when you became too successful, too influential, he decided it was time to eliminate the competition. Kim took off her sunglasses and David saw a mixture of pain and growing anger in her eyes. Why are you showing me this? She asked quietly. What reason do you have to betray your boss? David smiled bitterly. I'm not betraying the boss. I'm exposing a criminal. Julian Moore is not just a media mogul. He uses his empire to manipulate, to blackmail, to destroy reputations. I've seen him destroy people. Talented, honest people who simply stood in his way. He paused for a moment, then continued. 3 months ago, my sister worked in the marketing department of a small but promising cosmetics company. This company began to compete with one of the brands Julian had invested in. And suddenly, investigations appeared on the internet about these cosmetics containing toxic components. The company went bankrupt in a week. My sister lost her job, her reputation, and she still can't find a new place. And you decided to take revenge, Kim nodded, beginning to understand. I decided to stop him, David corrected. And when I saw that he was targeting you this time, he spread his hands. I couldn't just stand by. Kim walked slowly around the dusty room, processing what she had heard. It all made sense. Julian had always known too much about her affairs, always been too interested in her business plans. Under the guise of friendship, he had gained access to all her secrets, knew all her vulnerabilities. Let's say I believe you, Kim turned to David. What are you suggesting? The surveillance video is solid evidence, but Julian could claim it was doctored. I have something better. David pulled a small flash drive out of his jacket's inside pocket. There are documents, emails, financial transactions, all the evidence that Julian orchestrated the attack on you. What's more, he lowered his voice, there is evidence of all his past manipulations, dozens of ruined lives, careers, reputations. Kim extended her hand, but David took a step back. Not so fast. I can't just give you this. These files are encrypted, and only I have the key. What do you want? Kim tensed. Money. David shook his head. No. I want Julian Moore stopped. Not just for you or my sister, but for everyone he has destroyed and will destroy. How exactly do you propose to stop it? This charity reception tonight. You received an invitation, didn't you? Kim nodded, feeling all the pieces of the puzzle begin to fit together. Sure, no. Yes, Julian called me personally, said it was a chance to start restoring my reputation. David chuckled. Of course. He wants to see his victim, to enjoy your fall personally. A typical narcissist. He took a smartphone out of his other pocket, opened some app, and turned the screen towards Kim. Here is the plan of Julian's mansion. In his office, in the safe behind the painting, there is a hard drive. On it are the originals of all the files I copied. But there is something else. An algorithm that his tech department developed to manipulate social networks. News aggregators, stock quotes. Wait, Kim raised her hand. Are you talking about some kind of secret weapon for manipulating public opinion? Exactly, David nodded. Imagine a program that could create a trend, destroy a reputation, and cause panic in the financial markets in a matter of hours. Julian tested it on small targets, but you're his first really big target. Kim ran a hand through her hair, trying to take in the scale of what was happening. Funner, and you suggest that I break into his house during the reception and steal this disc? Not exactly, David shook his head. I suggest you go to the reception as planned. Be visible, distract attention. In the meantime, I'll sneak into his office and get the disc. Why can't you do it without me? Kim frowned. You have access to the security system, apparently. He was, David corrected. Julian fired me 3 days ago. I think he's starting to get suspicious. I don't have the access codes to his house now. But during the reception, security will be focused on the guests, with cameras trained on the main entrances. The backyard and service entrance will be virtually unwatched. Kim walked to one of the dusty windows and looked out onto the sunlit street. Her thoughts were racing. Trusting a stranger, a former security officer, a man who had betrayed his employer, even for noble reasons, was risky. But what were her options? Suppose we do that, she said slowly, without turning around. How does that help me right now? My accounts are frozen, my stock is down, my reputation is ruined. There's a program on the flash drive, David replied. A counter-algorithm, if you will. A friend of mine in IT created it when he realized what Julian was developing. It's like an antivirus. It can stop an attack, reverse some of the processes. Kim turned around, a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Can you start it? I can, but I need access to your servers, at least temporarily. And even then, it will only solve part of the problem. For a full rehabilitation, we need Julian's original files. Proof that he is behind all of this. Kim bit her lip thoughtfully. The risk was enormous, but she saw no other way out. Okay, she finally said. I'll give you access to my servers. But on one condition, I go with you to Julian's house. What? David raised his eyebrows. It's too dangerous. It's one thing to be a guest at a party, and quite another to participate in a break-in. It's this way or no way, Kim said firmly. I'm not going to sit idly by while my fate is being decided. Besides, she allowed herself a faint smile. No one knows Julian's mansion better than me. I've been there dozens of times, to all the parties, private dinners, business meetings. I know the layout of the rooms. I know the owner's habits. David hesitated, but something in Kim's determined gaze told him there was no point in arguing. Okay, he finally gave in. But you do exactly as I say. No improvisation. Agreed, Kim nodded and extended her hand. David shook her hand, and that simple gesture seemed to seal their unexpected union. Now let's get to your servers, he said, pulling a laptop out of his battered backpack. We don't have much time. The next hour was spent in intense work. Kim called her IT director, giving him clear instructions to grant David temporary access to the systems. He was, of course, shocked by the request, but the status of the crisis left no room for discussion. David, having connected to the servers, launched his program and now silently watched the lines of code flashing on the screen. What does it look like? Kim asked, looking over his shoulder. It's hard to say yet, he replied, not looking up from the monitor. Julian's system is very complex. It attacks from several directions at once. We can slow down the process, but we can only stop it completely if we have the original algorithm. Kim checked her phone nervously. Her stocks were still falling, though not as fast as before. Perhaps David's countermeasures were already taking effect. You know, she said suddenly, I've spent my whole life fighting for my place in the sun, building my brand, my reputation, my companies, and all the while people have said I'm worthless, that I'm just a celebrity with no real talent or value. She smiled bitterly. And now look at me. Someone thinks I'm important enough to launch such a massive attack. David looked up from the screen and at her. You built an empire from scratch, he said with unexpected respect. You turned your name into a brand, made the world pay attention to you. Of course, people like Julian see you as a threat. You represent everything he fears. A new kind of influence, a new era in media and business. Kim blinked in surprise, not expecting such an assessment from a man she had met only an hour ago. Thank you, she said quietly. I didn't think I'd hear anything positive from anyone today. David shrugged and returned to his laptop. I'm just stating the facts. Besides, he added with a slight grin, if I thought you were an easy target, I wouldn't risk my neck to help. Kim suddenly remembered something important. Wait, you said Julian fired you. Doesn't that mean he might recognize you? If he sees you in his house, he won't see me, David answered confidently. I was just one of the security staff. Julian Moore isn't the kind of boss who remembers the faces of ordinary personnel. Besides, he pointed to his laptop, my job will be to sneak in quietly, take what I need, and disappear just as quietly. You'll be the only one in sight. Kim nodded thoughtfully. We have a good plan, but I still don't understand one thing. She looked at David carefully. Why me? Yes, I'm successful, I have influence. But Julian is the owner of a media empire. He already controls public opinion. Why would he destroy me so demonstratively? David turned the laptop, showing her some kind of graph. See this? This is an analysis of social media mentions over the last 6 months. The blue line is you. The red line is Julian and all of his media combined. Notice the difference? Kim leaned closer. Her line had been consistently above Julian's, and the gap had only widened in recent months. You are becoming more influential than traditional media, David explained. Your opinions, your posts, your products shape trends more effectively than all his newspapers, TV channels, and internet portals. This scares him. He cannot control you. Kim slowly straightened up, realizing the scale of the situation. That is, this is not just a personal vendetta or business competition. This is a fight for the future of the media. Exactly, David nodded. And now, he closed the laptop, the program will work autonomously. It's time to get ready for the evening. Do you have anything to wear to the reception? Kim smiled weakly. I have a whole room of clothes just waiting for such events. Okay, but keep in mind, David became serious, your outfit should allow you to move freely. No long trains, tight skirts, or unstable heels. I'll figure it out, Kim nodded. What else do we need? David began to list. I need miniature cameras, microphones, devices for hacking electronic locks. I have some of the equipment, but not all. I have a friend in the security service who can help, Kim said. He owes me a favor. Excellent, David nodded. Then we'll split up. I'll prepare a technical plan for penetration. You'll take care of the equipment. We'll meet at 6 in the evening near Julian's mansion. I'll send you the exact coordinates of the meeting place. Kim took out her phone and quickly typed a message to her driver to come closer to the warehouse. One more thing, David said as she headed for the exit. Everything you do after this conversation must appear completely normal. No panic, no unusual behavior. Julian is probably watching you. Kim stopped and turned around. I've been in show business all my life, David. The ability to look normal when everything inside is burning is my greatest talent. He nodded, acknowledging that she was right. See you tonight, then. And Kim, he paused for a second. Be careful. Julian is more dangerous than you think. Kim smiled, but the smile did not reach her eyes. I am also more dangerous than everyone thinks. With that, she walked out of the warehouse, squinting in the bright sunlight. The SUV was waiting for her. As she got in, Kim felt something new being born inside her. Not just a determination to survive, but a desire to fight, to resist, to win. Where to now, Miss Kardashian? The driver asked. To the office, she answered firmly. I have work. The KKW Enterprises office greeted Kim with an unusual silence. Usually bustling with life, today it resembled a ghost ship. Employees whispered in corners. Computer screens showed stock charts. Phones rang, but no one dared answer. When Kim entered the main hall, everyone froze. She could feel the eyes on her. Sympathetic, fearful, curious. But none were hostile, and that gave her strength. Mrs. Kardashian, her assistant Megan ran up to her, holding a tablet. You haven't answered our messages. We've been so worried. I had an important meeting, Kim replied calmly. Gather all department heads in the conference room in 15 minutes. Megan nodded and rushed off to do the job, and Kim headed to her office. There, Mark, her lawyer, and Tara, her head of PR, were already waiting for her. Where have you been? Mark pounced on her as soon as the door closed. We were going crazy. To disappear for hours in a situation like that. I have a lead, Kim interrupted. I know who's behind the attack. Mark and Tara exchanged glances. Who? Tara breathed. Julianne Moore, Kim said, throwing off her jacket and going to the minibar to pour herself some water. And I have proof. Julian? Mark shook his head. That's impossible. He's your friend, your partner. He's a manipulator and a sociopath, Kim snapped. And we're going to expose him tonight. She gave a brief account of her meeting with David, leaving out details about the planned break-in at Julian's house. This is crazy. Mark ran a hand through his hair. You trust some fired security guard? What if this is a trap? What if he works for Julian? Then why would he help me fight the attack? Kim spread her hands. His program is already running, and it seems to be helping. Tara, what's the latest on the situation? The PR director looked at her tablet. The stock price decline slowed. Some media outlets began to express skepticism about the accusations. The hashtag #Stand with Kim began to gain popularity. See? Kim turned to Mark. It works. Okay, he reluctantly agreed. But what do you plan to do next? I'm going to see Julian this evening, Kim replied. I'm going to show everyone that I'm not broken, that I'm still fighting. Mark and Tara exchanged another glance, this time with obvious concern. Kim, Tara began softly, are you sure this is wise? Appearing in public in the middle of a scandal? It's not just smart, Kim said, walking to the window, looking out at the city below. It's necessary. If I hide, if I show weakness, I've lost, and I'm not going to lose. All the heads of departments, finance, legal, marketing, production, were gathered in the conference room. Their faces were tense, their looks anxious. When Kim entered, everyone fell silent, waiting for the verdict. She glanced around the room, then smiled. The same smile that millions had seen on magazine covers, reality shows, and red carpets. The smile that said, I have this under control. Good morning, everyone, she began. I know today may be the worst day in the history of our company. I know many of you are scared, confused, and wondering about the future, but I stand here to tell you, we will stand firm. She glanced at everyone present, and there was such an unwavering fire in her eyes that people involuntarily sat up straighter in their chairs. What happened today is not an accident or a natural disaster. It is a planned attack, behind which stands a specific person, a person whom we considered a friend. Kim paused, letting her words hang in the air, feeling the energy in the room shift. Mistrust was replaced by curiosity, fear by determination. Julian Moore is trying to destroy everything we've built, but tonight we'll prove to him that he's picked the wrong woman to play with. She placed her palms on the table and leaned forward, her voice low and determined. It's time to show the world what Kim Kardashian is really capable of. Sorry, Julianne Moore's mansion was a beacon of light for Hollywood's elite. Luxury cars lined the winding driveway, and celebrities in stunning outfits, politicians with polished smiles, and businessmen with precise handshakes emerged. Cameras flashed, turning night into day, journalists shouted questions, and guests wore smiles that belied their true thoughts and intentions. It was here in the backyard of the mansion, in the shade of huge palm trees, that Kim Kardashian met David Raines. Her black SUV stopped 2 blocks from the house, and she walked the last part of the way unnoticed, hiding in the evening's shadows. "Are you ready?" David asked, looking over her outfit. Kim dazzled in a navy Versace evening gown with a high slit. It was both elegant and functional, allowing for easy movement, hidden pockets for essential equipment, and enough material to conceal a miniature transmitter hidden in a jeweled necklace. "I've been preparing my whole life," Kim replied with a slight smile. "Does the equipment work?" David checked the signal on his device. "Everything is fine. I will hear every word. The camera in your necklace transmits a clear image." He showed her a small screen on the tablet, which reflected everything that was in front of Kim. "Remember the plan? I show up at the front door, attracting everyone's attention, especially Julian's. I interact with the guests, show that I'm not broken." Kim spoke calmly, as if reciting lines for another episode of a reality show. 40 minutes into the evening, I sneak upstairs, ostensibly to touch up my makeup. I distract the guards at Julian's office, allowing you to sneak in through the window from the terrace." "That's right," David nodded. "The most important thing is no improvisation. Follow the plan strictly. If something goes wrong, leave the house immediately. And if they catch you?" Kim looked at him intently. David shrugged. "Then you still have nothing to do with it. I'm just a former employee who decided to take revenge." In his eyes, Kim saw a strange mixture of determination and humility. This man was truly willing to risk everything for justice, or at least for his own understanding of justice. "Okay." Kim adjusted her dress again. "Time to start the show." She headed toward the front of the house, skirting the mansion along the garden path. David was hidden in the shadows of the trees, biding his time. As Kim approached the front door, the sounds of the party grew louder. Music, laughter, the clink of glasses. She took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and put on her most dazzling smile. The one that had sold millions of magazines, attracted billions of views, built an empire. The security guard at the entrance looked at her with poorly concealed surprise. Of course, he hadn't expected to see her here. Not after everything that had happened today. But Kim Kardashian's name was on the guest list, and he respectfully opened the door. When Kim walked into the huge room full of people, the conversation stopped for a moment. Hundreds of eyes turned to her, surprised, curious, assessing. She felt their gazes, heard the whispers, saw people leaning toward each other, covering their mouths with their hands. But she continued to smile, as if she didn't notice, as if there had been no scandal, no cyber attack, no stock crash. "Kim!" came an excited voice, and Diana Campbell, a Hollywood actress and old friend, ran up to her. "Oh my God, I didn't believe you were actually coming." "And missed the best party of the season?" Kim kissed her lightly on the cheek. "No way. You're just..." Diana shook her head, searching for words. "Incredible. After everything the media writes..." "Don't believe everything you read, my dear," Kim replied with a slight smile. "By the way, where is our magnificent host?" Diana nodded towards the other end of the room. "Shiriko. Julian, as usual, is in the spotlight." Kim followed her gaze and saw Julianne Moore, a tall, handsome man in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. He was surrounded by an admiring audience and clearly enjoying his position. Something about his appearance, his demeanor, now struck Kim as false, insincere. How could she not have noticed it before? As if sensing her gaze, Julian turned around. His face froze in surprise for a split second, but he quickly regained control and broke into a wide smile. "Kim Kardashian!" he exclaimed, opening his arms and heading towards her. "Queen of the evening!" He hugged her, and Kim returned the hug, internally shuddering at the proximity of the man who had tried to destroy her. "Julian," she pulled back, keeping her smile. "Thank you for the invitation. What a wonderful reception." "I didn't expect you to come," he said, lowering his voice and feigning concern. "After everything that happened today." "How are you holding up?" Kim saw something in his eyes that she hadn't noticed before. Poorly concealed malice. He was enjoying her situation, enjoying the fact that she was trapped. He had expected to see her broken, confused, desperate. "I'm coping," she answered lightly. "You know, this isn't the first scandal in my life. I've already learned to turn crises into opportunities." Something flashed in Julian's eyes. Irritation, disappointment, but it quickly disappeared. "That's why you're inimitable." He raised the glass of champagne he was holding. To Kim Kardashian's resilience. People around her raised their glasses in a toast, but Kim noticed how many looked away, not daring to meet her gaze. The same people who had sought her friendship only yesterday, sent her gifts, asked for her cooperation. Now they turned away in shame, afraid to associate themselves with a person going through a public scandal. "We need to talk alone," Julian said quietly, leaning toward her. "About your situation. I think we can find a way out." "Of course," Kim nodded. "But first, let me mingle with the guests for a bit. I need to show that I'm not hiding, right?" Julian nodded, impatience flashing in his eyes, but he managed to hide it behind another smile. "Of course. Find me later." He moved away to join another group of guests, but Kim noticed that he continued to watch her out of the corner of his eye. She spent the next half hour moving from one group of guests to the next, exchanging pleasantries, laughing at jokes, pretending that everything was fine. Inside, she was tense, but outwardly, she was the picture of calm and confidence. "I can't believe you're here," Elizabeth Ortiz, a well-known fashion journalist, whispered to her, catching her in the corner of the room. "After those photos came out—" "What photos, Elizabeth?" Kim asked innocently, although she knew perfectly well what was being discussed. "Well, you know," Elizabeth hesitated. "The ones that hit the web this morning." "Oh, that's what you mean." Kim waved her hand dismissively. "Photoshop. Pretty crude, to be honest. My lawyers are already working on it." Elizabeth blinked, clearly not expecting that answer. "But they look so convincing." "Modern technology works wonders," Kim smiled. "By the way, who was the first to publish these photos?" "I don't remember seeing the source. I think they first appeared on one of the JM media sites," Elizabeth said thoughtfully, "although they've since spread everywhere." "How interesting." Kim took a sip of champagne. "It's sad that even respected publications don't check their materials before publishing." Elizabeth blushed, and Kim realized that she had hit the nail on the head. The journalist had probably also rushed to publish the sensation without proper verification. Kim glanced at her watch and realized it was getting close to the next stage of their plan. She apologized to Elizabeth and began to slowly make her way out of the room. "Kim, are you leaving already?" Julian's voice stopped her. She turned around, feigning surprise. "Oh no, just wanted to freshen up." "Where's the ladies' room?" "Upstairs, second door on the right." Julian pointed to the stairs. "Or you can use the guest room. It's all yours." "Thank you," Kim smiled. "I'll be quick." As she walked up the wide marble staircase, she felt dozens of people's eyes on her. Many were probably wondering if she was really just going to the ladies' room or planning to escape the party through the back door. No one could even imagine what she was really planning. The second floor was quiet. All the action was happening downstairs. The guard at the stairs nodded to Kim, recognizing her, and she responded with a small smile. Turning down the right corridor, she quickly found the ladies' room and went inside. Then she immediately activated the transmitter in her necklace. "I'm in position," she said quietly. "Guards are at the stairs. The corridor to Julian's office is clear." "Roger that," David's voice came from the tiny earpiece hidden in her ear. "I'm on the terrace, waiting for the signal." Kim quickly touched up her makeup, made sure she looked flawless, and left the ladies' room. Now she had to distract the security guard on the landing so David could slip into Julian's office unnoticed. She walked down the hallway, deliberately tapping her heels on the marble floor so the guard could hear her approach. Then when she was a few steps away from him, she suddenly gasped and staggered, grabbing the wall. "Miss Kardashian," the guard immediately stepped towards her. "Are you feeling unwell?" "Just a little dizzy." Kim pressed her hand to her forehead. "Too much champagne on an empty stomach." "Maybe I can help you down," the guard suggested, holding out his hand. No, she smiled weakly. "I just need to sit down for a minute. Is there a chair around here?" The guard hesitated, clearly not wanting to leave his post, but also not daring to refuse the famous guest. "In the library," he said finally, pointing to a door at the end of the hallway, on the opposite side from Julian's office. "Let me show you." "That's so sweet of you." Kim leaned on his arm, feigning weakness. "I won't be long. Just sit for a few minutes." The guard led her toward the library, and Kim glanced over her shoulder to see David's shadow gliding down the hallway. Everything was going according to plan. The library was impressive. High ceilings, thousands of books on floor-to-ceiling shelves, plush leather chairs. A typical display of intellectual pretension for a man who probably hadn't even opened most of those books. "Thank you," Kim said, sinking into a chair. "I'll be fine. You can return to your post." "Do you need anything? A glass of water, perhaps?" The guard looked worried. "That would be wonderful," Kim gave him a grateful smile. As soon as the guard left, she activated the transmitter. "The guard is distracted. You have about 2 minutes." "I'm coming in," David answered briefly. Kim tapped her fingers nervously on the arm of her chair, waiting for the guard to return, and hoping that David would make it into Julian's office before he noticed his absence on the landing. The guard returned with a glass of water, and Kim accepted it gratefully. "Are you feeling better?" he asked. "Yes, thank you," she took a sip. "Just the stress of the last few days. You've probably heard about my troubles." "Yes, miss," the guard nodded. "It's been a tough day for you." "That's not the word," Kim sighed. "But I can handle it. I always can." The guard shifted awkwardly from one foot to the other, clearly unsure of what to say. He was just a guy doing his job, and making small talk with one of the most famous women in the world was not part of his job description. "Do you need anything else, miss?" he finally asked. "No, thank you," Kim sat up. "I think I'm feeling better. I'll be down soon." The guard nodded and left the library, leaving the door ajar. Kim waited for his footsteps on the stairs and activated the transmitter again. "How are you doing?" "I'm in the office." David's voice was tense. "Looking for the safe. My information suggests it should be behind the painting, but there are several here." "Look for the scenery," Kim said. "Julian once joked that he kept all his secrets behind a safe haven." "I see her," David answered after a few seconds. "Yes, the safe is here. Now we need to open it." Kim tensed. This was the riskiest part of their plan. If David couldn't open the safe, or if it took too long, the whole thing could fall apart. "How complicated is the lock?" she asked. "Biometric." David's voice was grim. "Fingerprint. But I have equipment to bypass it." Kim heard some sounds in the background. A muffled buzzing, clicking. "Kim?" A voice suddenly came from the hallway, and her heart sank. Julian Moore stood in the doorway of the library, looking at her curiously. "The guard said you felt sick." He took a few steps forward. "What happened?" "Nothing serious," Kim tried to keep her voice normal. "Just a little dizzy." Inside, she was panicking. If Julian decided to go back to his office, he would catch David in the act. She had to keep him here at all costs. "Julian," she stood up, taking a step toward him. "I was just wanting to talk to you. Alone." His eyebrows rose slightly in surprise. "Of course," he pointed to the chairs. "We can talk here." "No," Kim shook her head. "Too close to the guests. I'd prefer a more private place." Julian looked at her searchingly. "My office?" Kim's heart skipped a beat, but she kept her composure. "I think we might get disturbed there too. Don't you have some kind of bar or lounge area?" Julian hesitated for a moment, as if trying to guess her true intentions, then nodded. "There is a winter garden on the lower level. There is no one there now." "Excellent," Kim smiled with relief. "Lead the way, Mr. Moore." She followed Julian out of the library, her fingers secretly pressing against the necklace. "Be careful," she whispered. "Julian is with me, but I don't know how long I can keep him." They went down another staircase, a less formal one reserved for the master of the house. Julian led the way, and Kim studied him carefully. His straight back, his confident stride, his relaxed shoulders. He was in his element, on his own turf, confident in his superiority. And that could be his weakness. The winter garden turned out to be a beautiful room, with a glass ceiling through which the stars were visible. Exotic plants, soft sofas, subdued lighting. Everything created an intimate atmosphere. "This is a beautiful place," Kim noted, walking to the center of the room. "I'm glad you like it." Julian walked over to the small bar in the corner. "Want a drink?" "No, thank you. I've had enough for today." He shrugged and poured himself some whiskey. "So," he turned to her, taking a sip. "What did you want to talk about?" Kim took a deep breath. She needed to buy time for David, but at the same time she wanted to hear the truth from Julian. She wanted him to admit what he had done. "About what's happening to me today," she said, stepping closer, looking him straight in the eye. "About the cyber attack, about the photos, about the stock market crashing." Julian bowed his head slightly, a sympathetic expression appearing on his face. "It's a terrible situation. I've already offered to help my media empire restore your reputation." "Restoration?" Kim chuckled. "Or final destruction?" His eyes widened for a moment, but he quickly pulled himself together. "What do you mean, Kim?" "Stop playing, Julian." She crossed her arms over her chest. "I know you're behind the attack." Julian laughed, but his laugh sounded forced. "This is absurd. Why would I attack you? We are friends, partners." "We were never friends," Kim snapped. "You used me. Watched, studied, waited for me to become successful enough to be a threat." Julian slowly placed his glass on the table, his face changing. The mask of the good-natured host slipped away, revealing a cold, calculating look. "And who told you this?" "It doesn't matter," Kim took a step forward. "What matters is that I have proof. Emails, recordings, testimonies from people who work for you. Everything I need to destroy your reputation the way you tried to destroy mine." Julian looked at her for a few seconds, then suddenly burst out laughing, this time genuinely, with a hint of admiration. God, Kim, he shook his head. You're really impressive. I didn't think you'd figure me out so quickly. She didn't expect such an easy confession and was momentarily at a loss. So you don't deny it? What's the point? He shrugged, picking up his glass again. We both know the truth. Yes, I organized the attack. Yes, I wanted to destroy your empire. Yes, I planned to buy the assets of your companies for next to nothing when the stocks hit rock bottom. Kim felt her face burn with anger. Why? What did I do to you? It's not what you did. Julian took a sip of whiskey. It's who you're becoming. Do you know how much power you have? One social media post can make or break a company's stock, create a trend, change public opinion. You don't even realize how dangerous you are. And that's why you decided to destroy me? Kim shook her head. You could have just talked to me, offered cooperation, partnership, collaboration? Julian grinned. With you, you're too independent, too unpredictable. I can't control you, which means I can't trust you. Kim listened carefully, taking note of every word. The transmitter in her necklace recorded the entire conversation, creating yet another piece of evidence against Julian Moore. So what now? She asked. You think I'm just going to let you do this? Let you destroy everything I built? Julian put down his glass and came close to her, his eyes shining with excitement, with a sense of power. You don't have a choice, Kim. The attack is already underway. By morning, your empire will be gone. Every contract will be gone. Every stock will be worthless. Every door will be closed to you. And you know what's best? He leaned toward her, lowering his voice. You won't be the only one. This is just the beginning. My algorithm will change the media landscape forever. I will be able to create and destroy reputations, influence markets, shape public opinion. Real power, Kim, not the tinsel you deal in. Kim maintained her calm exterior, but inside she was seething with rage. She looked into Julian's eyes, seeing in them what had previously been skillfully hidden behind the mask of friendship, the lust for power, arrogance, and inhuman calculation. And at that moment, David's muffled voice came through her earpiece. I got access to the safe. There's a hard drive and documents. Everything is as we expected. A detailed plan of attack on you, an algorithm, a list of future victims. You were right, Kim. This is not just a personal vendetta. This is a large-scale conspiracy to manipulate public opinion, markets, elections. Julian plans to seize control of the entire information field. Kim touched her necklace discreetly, acknowledging the information, and then smiled slowly as she looked at Julian, who was still smugly enjoying his superiority, unaware that his empire of lies was about to collapse. The winter garden, transformed into Julian Moore's confessional, was filled with a ringing tension. The media mogul's smug smile contrasted with Kim's apparent calm. She had bought David enough time, but now the situation demanded decisive action. Do you really think it's that simple? Kim took a step forward, looking straight into the eyes of the man who had tried to destroy everything she had built over the years. You know what you did wrong, Julian? You always underestimated me. Julian chuckled. Underestimated? On the contrary, my dear. It was precisely because I valued your influence that you became my target. He saluted her with his glass. If you were insignificant, I would not waste my time on you. No, Kim shook her head. You underestimated my ability to fight. You thought I'd just break down, lock myself in the house, cry over my ruined reputation. But you forgot one important thing. I'm Kim Kardashian. I turn scandals into empires. At that moment, David's voice came through her earpiece. Mission complete. I have everything I need. I'll meet you at the exit in 15 minutes. Julian noticed a fleeting smile on her face. What made you so happy? The thought of how you're going to recover from today? Believe me, it won't work this time. My algorithm leaves no chance. Your algorithm? Kim feigned bewilderment. The one that's stored on the hard drive in your safe behind the painting safe haven? Julian's face changed instantly. Confidence was replaced by anxiety. Where are you from? Kim allowed herself a triumphant smile. I know a lot of interesting things, Julian. For example, the list of your future victims. Impressive, I must say. Senators, businessmen, celebrities. You aim high. Julian rushed toward the door, but Kim stopped him with an imperious gesture. No need. It's too late. The hard drive is no longer in the safe. What did you do? His voice was filled with both rage and fear. Me? Nothing. I was just chatting with you while the others were busy. Kim pulled out her phone and glanced at the screen. Oh, I guess it's time to get back to the party. You don't want to miss the highlight, do you? Julian rushed to the stairs. "Security!" he shouted. "Check my office immediately." Kim followed him calmly, maintaining an icy calm. Julian's panic was the best proof to her of the success of their operation. As they walked up to the main hall, there was already a murmur among the guests. People were gathering in groups, showing each other their phone screens. Some were giving Julian strange looks, surprised, wary, indignant. "What's going on?" Julian turned to his assistant, who looked extremely worried. "Sir, documents have just been leaked online." "Your documents. Plans for a cyber attack on Kim Kardashian. Details of an algorithm to manipulate public opinion. Target lists. All of this is being broadcast live on most channels." Kim noticed how Julian's face turned pale. "This can't be. The files were encrypted. Obviously not reliable enough," Kim said calmly. "Technology is moving so fast these days, isn't it?" Julian turned to her sharply. You've been playing with me all this time?" "I learned from the best," Kim shrugged. "Didn't you say you should keep your enemies close?" Guests began to gather around them, drawn by the tension between the host and his celebrity guest. Among them, Kim noticed several well-known journalists who had already started recording on their phones. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said loudly to the audience, realizing that the moment for the decisive blow had arrived. "I think many of you have already seen the news. Today, one of the largest conspiracies in the history of modern media was exposed. On the huge screen specially installed for the evening event, footage of a live CNN broadcast suddenly appeared. The presenter, with a serious face, read out the sensational news. Documents showing an orchestrated cyber attack on Kim Kardashian have been published by an anonymous source. According to the materials, the attack was orchestrated by media mogul Julian Moore to seize control of her business empire and was part of a larger plan to manipulate markets and public opinion. Among the documents was a list of potential victims, including dozens of celebrities, politicians, and businessmen. The room was deathly silent. All eyes were glued to the screen, then to Julian, who seemed to shrink before their eyes. "It's a fake," he finally managed to say. "An obvious fake. Kim is trying to save his reputation by any means necessary," but his voice was shaking, and it did not go unnoticed. The guests began to whisper. Some were already heading for the exit, not wanting to be associated with the escalating scandal. "Fake?" Kim thought for a moment. "Sexumon. Then how do you explain that the attack on my accounts began exactly at the time indicated in these documents? How do you explain that many of the sites that were the first to publish false accusations against me belong to your holding company? And most importantly," she paused for effect, "how do you explain that all of this was recorded?" Kim touched her necklace, and at that moment a recording of their recent conversation in the Winter Garden appeared on the screen. Julian's voice, crystal clear, without distortion, filled the room. "Yes, I organized the attack. Yes, I wanted to destroy your empire. Yes, I plan to buy the assets of your companies for next to nothing when the stocks hit rock bottom." The faces of the guests expressed shock and disbelief. Among them were Julian's clients, his business partners, celebrities whose reputations depended on his media resources. And now they were all hearing him admit to a criminal conspiracy. Julian looked like he'd been punched in the gut. "It's illegal," he croaked. "You recorded me without my consent. Technically, the recording was made on your property, at your event, during a conversation you initiated," Kim countered. "My lawyers say it's perfectly legal, especially considering we're talking about evidence of a crime." At that moment, the doors of the hall swung open, and several men in formal suits entered. One of them showed his ID. "Julian Moore, FBI. We need to ask you some questions regarding possible violations of federal cybersecurity and fraud laws." A murmur ran through the room. Kim noticed how many guests instinctively backed away from Julian, as if he had suddenly become contagious. "This is ridiculous." Julian tried to maintain a shred of dignity. "I'm an important man. I have connections. You can't just show up at my reception and—" "We can, Mr. Moore," the agent was unperturbed. "And we do. Please come with us. You can call your lawyer." As Julian was led out of the room, amid whispers and clicking cameras, Kim felt people approaching her. Those who had averted their eyes an hour earlier were now eager to express support, admiration, and offer cooperation. "Kim, this is incredible. How did you guess?" Diana Campbell hugged her, genuinely shocked. "You are the strongest woman I know," the famous producer said admiringly. "We've always believed in you. My brand would like to discuss the possibility of a new advertising campaign with you," whispered a representative of a large cosmetics company. "We could sign a contract tomorrow." Kim smiled politely, thanked him, but inside she felt a strange mixture of triumph and disgust. How quickly all these people had changed sides. How easily they had turned their backs on Julian when he lost power. How quickly they had assured her of their loyalty now. Looking at her watch, she realized it was time to meet David. Having apologized to yet another enthusiastic interlocutor, Kim headed for the exit, but was stopped by Elizabeth Ortiz, the journalist who had recently discussed the scandalous photos with her. "Kim, we're putting together a special," Elizabeth said. "We just heard that your stocks are soaring in pre-market trading. Investors are coming back in droves. What do you think about that?" "The truth always wins," Kim said simply. "And now I want to use my platform to make sure something like this never happens again. No one should have the power to manipulate public opinion for personal gain." This was just the beginning. Kim knew that there were numerous interviews, press conferences, statements ahead. But now she had to leave this house, these people, this false atmosphere. Stepping out into the fresh air, she saw David waiting for her next to the car. In his hands, he held a small bag, which she knew contained all the evidence of Julian Moore's crimes. "Mission accomplished," he said, opening the car door. "You did even better than I expected." "You did a good job, too," Kim smiled as she got into the car. "How did you figure out how to immediately pass the materials on to the media?" "I didn't want to take any chances," David shrugged, settling down next to me. "Julian has too many connections. If we had gone the standard route, through law enforcement, he could have hushed up the case, destroyed the evidence. Public exposure left him no chance." The car pulled away, taking them away from the mansion where chaos was still going on. Kim closed her eyes for a moment, feeling infinitely tired. The day had been incredibly difficult, from the morning crisis to the evening triumph. "What now?" David asked. "Where should I take you?" "To the office," Kim said firmly. "We need to assemble a crisis team, prepare a formal statement, develop a recovery strategy." "Don't you want to rest for at least an hour?" David asked in surprise. "After everything that happened?" "No," Kim shook her head. "This moment is too important. There's a new reality being formed, and I need to be at the center of it." She glanced at her phone, which was literally exploding with notifications. "Look, the hashtag #RegionKimExposed has already reached millions of mentions. People are supporting me." David nodded respectfully. "You really know how to handle a situation." "It's my gift," Kim allowed herself a smile, "and my curse." The atmosphere at KKW Enterprises was completely different than it had been that morning. The employees greeted her with applause, some with tears in their eyes. News of the revelation of Julian Moore had spread like wildfire, and everyone realized that the company had not only avoided collapse, but had received an incredible boost for growth. "We have a meeting in the conference room in 15 minutes, Kim announced as she walked through the office. "We need to develop a strategy for the next few days." In her office, she finally allowed herself a moment of triumph. She sank into a chair and glanced at the big screen on the wall, where news channels vied with each other to report on the exposure of the conspiracy of the century. Her phone continued to vibrate with messages of support, from family, friends, business partners, even those who had been terminating their contracts with her that morning. Mark, her lawyer, burst into the office without knocking. "Kim, this is incredible. How did you do this?" "I had good helpers." Kim nodded toward David, who was sitting quietly in the corner of the office. "Without him, none of this would have happened." "Companies are literally lining up to renew contracts," Mark continued excitedly. "And not just renew, they're offering better terms. Valiant Fashion just offered to double the amount of the previous contract." "Tell them we'll consider their offer," Kim replied calmly. "But first, let them make a public apology for how quickly they ended our partnership this morning." Mark raised his eyebrows in surprise. Do you want a public apology from one of the largest fashion companies?" "Yes," Kim said firmly, "and from everyone else who was quick to turn their backs on me. I want everyone to understand, loyalty is not for sale. Those who are only with me in good times do not deserve me in the best." Mark nodded, impressed by her attitude. "I'll pass it on. Anything else?" "Prepare a press release. We are not only talking about Julian's exposure, but also announcing a new initiative, a fund to protect against cyber fraud and media manipulation. I want what happened to me to be a lesson for everyone, and a reason for change." When Mark left, David finally spoke up. "Impressive. Most people after such an ordeal would only think about how to lick their wounds and rest." "I'm not the majority," Kim turned to him, "and I know that true victory is not just surviving, but becoming stronger." "What do you plan to do with Julian's algorithm?" David asked. "You understand that it is a very powerful tool of influence." Kim thought for a moment. "I'll pass it on to cybersecurity experts to study and create protective mechanisms. Such technologies should not be in the hands of one person or corporation." She looked at David carefully. "And what are you planning?" "Me?" He shrugged. My job is done. Julian is exposed, his plans foiled. I think it's time to move on. Or you could stay, Kim suggested. I need people with your skills and principles, especially now when I plan to not only rebuild my empire, but expand it in new directions. David raised his eyebrows in surprise. Are you offering me a job? I'm offering you a mission. Kim stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the Los Angeles skyline at night. Help me build a media platform that resists manipulation. Transparent, ethical, honest. What Julian tried to destroy, we will weaponize against people like him. David looked at her for a long time, then nodded slowly. Sounds like a worthy goal. Excellent. Kim extended her hand. Welcome aboard. At that moment, there was a knock on the door, and Tara, the head of the PR department, entered the office. Kim, CNN, NBC, Fox and ABC want to interview you. Live today. What should I tell them? Kim thought for a moment, then said decisively, tell them I'm giving a press conference. Here in our office in 2 hours. Let everyone come. It won't be just an interview. It will be a manifesto. When Tara had gone, Kim turned back to the window. Below her, the lights of the city that had been the scene of her potential downfall that morning, now the site of her incredible rebirth, shone. Behind the glass, she saw herself reflected, a strong woman in an elegant dress, tired but undefeated. You know, she said without turning around, Julian was right about one thing. I do have enormous power, the power to influence people, to change trends, to shape opinions, and now I'm going to use it consciously. David walked over and stood next to her. What do you mean? Today I realized how fragile our information world is. Kim looked at the city, as if seeing it in a new light. How easy it is to manipulate people if you have resources and no principles. Julian used this weakness of the system to destroy. I use my influence to protect. She turned to him, determination burning in her eyes. Today, the old era has ended, and a new one has begun. And I intend to stand at the origins of these changes. Her team was already waiting for her in the conference room. Lawyers, PR specialists, marketers, IT experts. They all looked at Kim with undisguised admiration. That morning they had witnessed the beginning of her fall, and now they were watching her triumphant revival. Ladies and gentlemen, Kim began, looking around the room. Today, we have experienced something unprecedented. An attempt to completely destroy our company, our reputation, everything we've spent years building. She paused. And we won. Applause filled the hall. But this is just the beginning. Kim continued as the applause died down. What happened to me today could happen to anyone. Today the world saw how easy it is to manipulate information, reputation, public opinion, and that makes us rethink everything we do. She glanced around at her staff. Starting tomorrow, we are not just rebuilding our company, we are transforming it. We are creating a new kind of media empire, transparent, ethical, focused not only on profit, but also on protecting the truth. We will become the standard by which others are judged. The employees' eyes lit up with enthusiasm. They felt like they were witnessing the birth of something significant. We have a lot of work to do. Kim checked her watch. In an hour, every major media outlet in the world will be here, and we're ready to tell them a story not just about exposing a conspiracy, but about our vision for the future. A future where technology serves truth, not manipulation. As everyone went off to prepare for the press conference, Kim was left alone in the conference room for a moment. She walked to the window, looking out at the city at night. The phone in her hand vibrated. A message from her mother. Saw the news. Proud of you, daughter. You've changed the game. Kim smiled. Yes, she had indeed changed the rules of the game. Now she had to create new ones. There was a cautious knock on the door. The young assistant said, Miss Kardashian, the first journalists have already arrived, and your family is here. They want to support you at the press conference. Thank you, Kim nodded. Tell them I'll be there in a minute. Alone again, she took one last look at the Los Angeles night, the city of opportunity, the city of dreamers and fighters, the city where she had just gone through the most serious test of her career and emerged victorious. The phone vibrated again, this time with a notification from a stock app. Her stocks had soared 200% after the close of trading. Investors were voting with their money, restoring their trust. Kim smiled and headed for the door. Behind her were cameras, microphones, journalists, millions of viewers around the world. A new chapter of her life, a new era of her empire. She took a deep breath and squared her shoulders. Kim Kardashian was ready to rewrite the rules of the game, and the world held its breath in anticipation.